My name is Bianca Caldwell, and I am 54 years old. For nearly 3 decades, I played the role of perfect wife, perfect mother, perfect supporter. I smoothed over Gregory's impulsive decisions, his endless career reinventions, his flashes of brilliance that always fizzled into financial chaos. I told myself that one day, after our daughter Amelia graduated, I would finally step into the light and pursue the life I'd put on hold. That day came, but not in the way I had ever imagined. The restaurant was alive with champagne bubbles and clinking silverware, a celebration staged for Amelia's college graduation. She sat beside me, cheeks flushed, graduation cap still perched jauntily on her head. The air carried the scent of roasted duck and expensive wine, and all eyes were fixed on Gregory, my husband of 28 years, who stood with his glass raised. It should have been Amelia's moment, her triumph, her day. Instead, Gregory cleared his throat and delivered words that turned the entire room to stone. I've decided to start a new life without Bianca. The clinking stopped. Conversations froze mid-sentence. 50 pairs of eyes snapped to me, hungry for a spectacle. The betrayed wife shrieking, storming out, collapsing in tears. But I didn't give them that. I smiled. Congratulations on your honesty. The silence was deafening. Amelia's hand tightened on mine, trembling brutally, her face pale beneath the tassel of her cap. From the far table, I caught sight of Cassandra Wells. Blonde? Younger? Her lips pressed tight as she shifted in her seat among people who had been my friends for decades. People who had known. People who had said nothing. Cassandra, who had once called me late at night asking for career advice. Cassandra, who had laughed under our Christmas lights. And all the while, she had been waiting. No, feeding on the life I built. I reached into my handbag, fingers brushing cool leather, and withdrew a cream-colored envelope. Calmly, deliberately, I set it beside Gregory's plate. His self-satisfied grin flickered. "What's this?" "Something for you to read later," I replied, steady as stone. Gasps rippled like tiny earthquakes across the tables. Amelia's lips parted, desperate for an answer I couldn't give her. "Not yet." I kissed her cheek softly. "I am so proud of you, sweetheart. This day is still about you." Then I rose, smoothed the silk of my dress, and addressed the room of voyeurs. "Please enjoy your meal. I wish you all a lovely afternoon." My heels clicked against the polished floor as I walked out. The heavy restaurant door closed behind me with a thud that felt like a gavel striking. Outside, the Georgia summer heat wrapped around me like fire. For the first time in years, I inhaled and felt air fill my lungs without weight. But then the door burst open, slamming against the wall. "Bianca!" Gregory's voice cracked into the stillness, shrill, desperate, not triumphant anymore. "What the hell is this? What have you done?" I didn't turn back, didn't answer. I let the sound of his panic chase me down the street, and for the first time I allowed myself a small, dangerous smile. Because inside that envelope was not grief, not despair. It was the first move in a game I had been planning for months, a game he never realized he was already losing. The drive home was strangely quiet. My phone buzzed and vibrated with calls. Friends from the restaurant, Amelia's shaken voice on voicemail, even Gregory's sister Diana. I ignored them all except for one message to Amelia. "I'm okay. This isn't your burden. Enjoy your day. We'll talk tonight." Our colonial house loomed ahead, stately and familiar, every brick drenched in the glow of memory. The porch swing where I had read bedtime stories, the worn welcome mat that had absorbed decades of greetings and goodbyes. But tonight, it felt less like home, and more like the stage of a crime scene. Inside, nothing had changed. The photographs on the wall still showed the smiling couple, the happy family. The antique grandfather clock still ticked steadily in the hall. Yet beneath that rhythm, I heard the echo of betrayal. Upstairs, I opened our closet and found them. Suitcases. Neatly packed, pressed shirts lined up like soldiers, tucked behind my dresses as though he believed I'd never notice. Gregory, meticulous with clothes but careless with the truth. He had been ready to vanish the morning after Amelia's celebration, leaving me with silence and ruin. I smiled, not with joy, but with the cold satisfaction of confirmation. 3 months ago, it had started with numbers, small withdrawals, unfamiliar transfers. My instinct told me something was wrong. 20 years as a finance manager meant I could see money trails like blood spatter on white cloth. They didn't fade. They told stories. So I followed. I traced accounts, pulled statements, and quietly copied documents. I found dinners billed at restaurants I had never seen, jewelry I had never worn, deposits toward beachfront property. Meanwhile, Gregory lectured me about tightening our belts for retirement. The final blow came from his own carelessness. He left his phone unlocked one evening, and I read messages that were practically a script of his betrayal. After Amelia's graduation, I'll tell her. It'll be a clean break. We'll start fresh. She'll be blindsided, but better in public. She won't make a scene. Cassandra's reply, she has no idea about the money, does she? And Gregory, arrogant as ever, none. Bianca trusts me completely. That's her weakness. Weakness. That word had burned itself into my mind, but if Gregory had studied me as closely as I had studied him, he'd have known the truth. I was never weak. I was calculating, patient, and most importantly, prepared. The prenup was my ace, signed nearly 3 decades ago, when I had more family wealth than he did. It included a clause Gregory himself had insisted on: fidelity. Ironically, the very noose he had tied around my neck was the rope I would use to strangle his plans. While he played house with Cassandra, I gathered attorneys, documented every hidden transfer, recorded every damning word. I didn't just prepare divorce papers. I built an arsenal. When the restaurant door slammed behind me earlier, he had no idea the envelope in his hands was the first spark. Hours later, I heard the growl of his car outside. The front door crashed open. Bianca! His voice carried through the house like a storm. I sat in the living room, laptop closed, documents spread neatly on the coffee table, calm, waiting. He burst in, red-faced, clutching the envelope. What the hell is the meaning of this? You served me divorce papers. Today of all days. I met his fury with quiet precision. I thought it aligned nicely with your plans. You wanted to start your new life. I'm simply helping you transition. You had no right. I had every right. My voice cut clean through his words. Just as you had every right to choose Cassandra. We all make choices, Gregory. For a moment, his anger shifted into smugness. The prenup expired years ago. Any lawyer will tell you that. I allowed myself a small smile. Actually, it didn't. Section 12. Do you remember? The fidelity clause remains in effect for the duration of the marriage. Your lawyer should have explained that. Oh, wait. You didn't consult one, did you? The blood drained from his face. He staggered back, suddenly the one cornered. The prenup he had demanded all those years ago was about to dismantle everything he had built. The house, the vacation property, the retirement accounts, all of it. You can't do this to me, he whispered, collapsing onto the couch. You did this to yourself, I replied. His phone buzzed, vibrating against his thigh. He didn't answer. Cassandra, no doubt, wondering why her prince wasn't arriving to whisk her away into their new life. Bianca, 28 years. Doesn't that count for something? His voice cracked, softening into desperation. I studied him. This man I had once loved, who had held my hand through miscarriages, who had surprised me with anniversaries, who had also systematically betrayed me for over a year. It did count. That's why your betrayal cut so deep. I pulled out my phone, pressed play on a recording. Gregory's voice filled the room. After the graduation, I'll tell her it's over. A public setting is better. She won't make a scene. And she has no idea about the money. Cassandra's voice chimed in. None. Bianca trusts me completely. His face went white. His face went white. You recorded me? That's illegal. Not in Georgia. Not when one party consents, and not when it's in your own home. I leaned closer, my voice ablaze against his pride. I didn't record your private moments. I'm not cruel. Only your conspiracy to defraud me. Gregory shot to his feet, pacing. I need to make some calls. Your attorney might be a good start, I said coolly, reaching for the small overnight bag I had already packed. Where are you going? His voice trembled. Diana's. She was the first to see you and Cassandra together, you know? She gave you the chance to stop. You didn't. Now she's on my side. The shock on his face was almost sweet. Even his own sister had defected. As I walked to the door, he grasped for one last weapon. What about Amelia? Have you thought about what this does to her? That broke the calm facade. I turned. Fire in my chest. Don't you dare use our daughter as your shield. You weren't thinking about her when you were sneaking around with Cassandra or siphoning money into your secret accounts. His phone buzzed again. This time, he groaned. Problem? I asked, arching a brow. It's Cassandra. She's at the apartment already. She's moved her things in. I smiled, slow and deliberate. The apartment in both your names? The lease you signed last month? He nodded, confused. You might want to call the leasing office. That application never went through. Flagged for credit issues. They called our home line. I handled it myself. And with that, I left him standing in his own unraveling life, a man choking on the ashes of his own schemes. Diana's bungalow smelled faintly of lavender and old books, a safe haven from the storm I had just left behind. She pulled me into a fierce hug, her voice trembling. I just heard from Amelia. Are you okay? Better than expected, I admitted. We sat in her sunroom, surrounded by the greenery she nurtured as carefully as she nurtured her students. A bottle of wine was already open on the table. Gregory has lost his mind, she muttered darkly, pouring us each a glass. Announcing it like that in front of everyone. He always loved drama, but this is cruelty. It was calculated, I said, accepting the glass. He wanted to humiliate me in public, to strip me of dignity. He thought I'd break. Instead, he walked into a trap he never saw coming. Diana's eyes gleamed. And the envelope? I explained. The divorce papers, the bank transfers, the fidelity clause that would strangle every one of his plans. Diana laughed bitterly. The irony, he forced that prenup on you, terrified you'd take his business money, and now it's the rope tightening around his neck. Before I could reply, my phone buzzed. Amelia. Her voice cracked through the line. Mom, I'm coming over. You don't have to, sweetheart. I'm already in the car. Dad's telling everyone you've lost your mind, that you planned this for months. He's saying horrible things. Of course he was. Gregory always rewrote history to cast himself as the victim. Let him talk, I said evenly. The truth has a way of catching up. 20 minutes later, Amelia burst through Diana's door, still in her graduation dress, makeup streaked from tears. She collapsed into my arms like she had when she was a child waking from a nightmare. Why didn't you tell me? Her voice was muffled against my shoulder. I didn't want to ruin your final semester, I whispered. You worked so hard for today. She pulled back, eyes blazing. Dad ruined it. Not you. I led her into the living room, where the three of us sat together. I told her everything. The affair, the stolen money, the careful plan Gregory thought was flawless. Amelia listened in stunned silence, then finally shook her head. I knew something was off. He was always distracted, always on his phone. But I never thought. None of us want to see the truth when it comes to people we love, Diana said gently. Before Amelia could respond, the doorbell rang. Diana returned a moment later, her face pale. It's Gregory. And he's not alone. My pulse quickened, but my face remained calm. Let him in. Gregory entered with Cassandra trailing behind him. He looked furious, jaw clenched, eyes bloodshot. Cassandra, on the other hand, looked nervous, her confidence cracking as her gaze darted between us. Bianca, you need to stop this insanity, Gregory demanded. Unfreeze the accounts. We can discuss this like adults. Amelia stepped forward, her voice sharp as glass. Maybe you should have thought about being an adult before humiliating Mom in front of everyone. Gregory blinked, as if seeing her for the first time. Amelia, this doesn't involve you. Doesn't involve me. She let out a bitter laugh. You blew up our family on my graduation day. How does that not involve me? Cassandra tugged at his sleeve. Greg, maybe we should go. No. He shook her off. I'm not leaving until Bianca agrees to be reasonable. Diana's voice cut across the room, cool and unforgiving. My sister-in-law is the only reasonable person here. You're the one who turned your daughter's graduation into a circus. I stayed seated, watching it unfold. For years, I had been the peacemaker, smoothing over conflict, protecting everyone but myself. That role was dead. The accounts will remain frozen until the preliminary hearing, I said flatly. 3 days from now, the judge will decide then. Gregory's face twisted. 3 days? What am I supposed to do until then? You have your personal account, I replied, the one you've been funneling money into all year. That should suffice. Cassandra's head snapped toward him. A separate account? With how much in it? The look she gave him was sharp, almost venomous. Gregory ignored her, his desperation thick in the air. This is vindictive, Bianca. This isn't you. Perhaps you never really knew me, I answered softly. Amelia's eyes narrowed on Cassandra. Did you know he planned to announce it like that, in front of everyone? Cassandra shifted uneasily. I thought he was going to speak to your mother privately. The announcement was unexpected. Gregory shot her a look of betrayal, but the cracks between them were already widening. I think it's time you left, Diana said firmly, her arms folded. Amelia, Gregory pleaded, desperation clawing at his words. Relationships change, people grow apart. You'll understand someday. My daughter's face hardened in a way I had never seen before. What I understand is that you're a coward. You couldn't even give Mom the dignity of a private conversation. You were stealing from us while I was working 2 jobs to pay for textbooks. You lied to us. That's not how it was. It's exactly how it was. Her voice cracked, filled with righteous fury. Please leave, Dad. I can't look at you right now. The silence that followed was suffocating. Gregory's face was ashen, Cassandra's eyes downcast. Finally, he turned, muttering through clenched teeth. This isn't over, Bianca. I'll fight you. I met his gaze, unflinching. You're welcome to try. The door slammed behind them, the echo reverberating through Diana's home like a warning shot. Amelia sank onto the sofa, tears spilling again. I've never talked to him like that. I wrapped my arm around her shoulders. Sometimes doing the right thing feels like tearing yourself open. But it's the only way forward. Diana poured fresh glasses of wine, raising hers high. To new beginnings. Indeed, this was no ending. It was the start of a war Gregory never saw coming. The rain came down in sheets on the morning of the preliminary hearing, hammering against the courthouse windows like an omen. Gregory arrived with a young, nervous attorney in tow, a man who looked more suited to handling tax audits than a war over betrayal and broken vows. I almost pitied him. Almost. I entered with Philip, my seasoned lawyer, calm and deliberate in every step. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman who had no patience for theatrics, flipped through the prenup with surgical precision. This agreement appears to be in order, she said, glancing over her glasses at Gregory's attorney. Do you contest its validity? Gregory's lawyer cleared his throat. Your Honor, given the passage of time, we believe. Section 18, the judge interrupted, reading aloud, clearly states the duration is for the term of the marriage plus any legal proceedings resulting from its dissolution. There is no expiration date. Gregory's face flushed crimson. He leaned forward to whisper frantically, but the young lawyer only looked more unsettled. The evidence of systematic fund transfers, the judge continued, violates disclosure requirements. The accounts will remain frozen until full financial discovery. The family home remains in Mrs. Caldwell's possession under the fidelity clause. Gregory slammed his hand against the table. This is outrageous. The judge fixed him with a cold glare. Mr. Caldwell, I suggest you review the agreement you signed more carefully. Court is adjourned. Full hearing in 30 days. He looked at me as though I had personally destroyed his empire. But the truth was simpler. He had destroyed himself. Word spread quickly. In Augusta, gossip moved faster than wildfire. Friends who once smiled at Gregory now kept their distance. Business partners stopped returning his calls. Cassandra, deprived of her promised beachfront property and luxury lifestyle, began to wither. Within weeks, she was gone, leaving Gregory with nothing but unpaid bills and a reputation in ruins. For me, the opposite was true. With the security I had safeguarded all along, I rented a small office downtown. Caldwell Financial Transitions was born, a consultancy dedicated to guiding women through the storms of divorce, widowhood, or career upheaval. My first clients came timidly, carrying stacks of financial papers and tears in their eyes. They left with confidence, with clarity, with power. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving. I was leading. Amelia, now settled in Charleston with her new job, called me often. I'm so proud of you, Mom, she said one night, her voice glowing with warmth. You're turning your pain into strength for other women. You're doing what Dad never imagined you could. And she was right. For years, Gregory had defined me as his wife, as Amelia's mother. Now I was more: mentor, strategist, survivor, builder. The final hearing arrived on what would have been our 29th anniversary. A poetic date. Gregory looked hollow, his suit ill-fitted, his eyes shadowed. Cassandra was long gone. His so-called friends had vanished. Even his business was faltering without the quiet scaffolding of my support. The judge upheld the prenup in its entirety. Gregory walked away with his personal belongings, his failing business, and a dwindling personal account. I kept the house, my retirement savings, and the majority of our investments. The very agreement he once used as a weapon was the blade that cut him down. Outside the courthouse, he approached me one last time. His voice was low, fragile. I made a terrible mistake. Is there any chance we could? No. My answer was gentle but final. That door is closed. For once, he didn't argue. He only nodded. I hope you find happiness, Bianca. You deserve it. It was, perhaps, the first honest thing he had said in years. 6 months later, my consultancy thrived in a larger office with 2 associates at my side. Clients filled the waiting room. I no longer lived in Gregory's shadow. I lived in my own light. Amelia visited often, her eyes proud. One afternoon, she said, "You know what's ironic? If Dad had just been honest, he might have kept half of everything." I smiled. Sometimes people can't see past their greed, and sometimes their greed blinds them to the fact that they've already lost. I thought back to that envelope I'd placed beside Gregory's plate in the restaurant, the one that had set everything into motion. To everyone else, it looked like my downfall. In truth, it was my key, not just to revenge, to reinvention. And as I sat in my office, surrounded by the women whose lives I was helping to rebuild, I realized something chilling, something liberating. The greatest revenge was not destroying Gregory. It was never needing him again.